GoodBuy, the show where we tell you about a thing and whether or not you should actually buy that thing. Today, that thing is Final Fantasy XVI. A much darker and grueling tale than the series is known for, Final Fantasy XVI takes its themes in an entirely new direction. Not only does it return to the medieval fantasy setting akin to Final Fantasy IX, but it also isn't afraid to target a much more adult audience. Violence, F-bombs, and other things included. Taking the role of Clive Rossfield, a man marked as a tool by both man and destiny, you will journey through the continent of Valisthea, searching for answers, exacting revenge, and seeking meaning. Whether you're jumping into Final Fantasy for the first time, or you're trying to decide whether you want to walk this new, unbeaten path, we're here to help you answer, is Final Fantasy XVI worth buying? Sometimes it's hard to know exactly what you're fighting for, especially in expansive, lengthy RPGs. As features lead Jade King says in a review, Final Fantasy XVI has no such problem. She notes that its sense of place is stronger than almost any other entry in the series, with the world building to make it worthwhile. It's not just about that sense of place though, it's about the relationships you form throughout your quest. Clive, your protagonist, has people who depend on him, and people he depends on. The connections you build are precious, the results of side quests, conversation, and just existing in this big, beautiful, and very broken world. She says, Final Fantasy XVI is a bold new benchmark for the series that puts emotional complexity and courageous world building at the forefront. While at times the world can feel somewhat limited, the side quests offer a way to deepen your connection to Valisthea. You may be unable to explore that to your heart's content, but the optional missions allow you to meet new people and fight new creatures and bosses. There is busy work, as Jade mentions, and it can feel bloated at times, but the side content generally delivers. However, it's the combat that shines brightest in Final Fantasy XVI, especially in performance mode. You are given so many abilities to play with. While the combat starts slow, mostly button mashing one button until your hands hurt, eventually you'll be able to chain some of the best moves Final Fantasy has ever graced us with. This stellar combat is only emphasized by the strong storytelling, a dramatic spectacle that always feels satisfying in your hands. Concluding her review, Jade once again praises the game's storytelling and world building, especially its ability to feel hopeful even when on the cusp of collapse. She enjoyed the emotional complexity that formed the core of Final Fantasy XVI, along with its relentless combat, ultimately calling the game a triumph. There has never been a short, breezy Final Fantasy game, and Final Fantasy XVI, while changing up more than a few aspects of the classic series, is no different. If you're diligent and mainlining the story, you can expect to spend between 35 and 40 hours in the world of Valisthea. But who plays a Final Fantasy game just to mainline the story? These are vibrant, breathtaking worlds, and they beg you to explore them. With side quests, hunts, and a general stop and smell the flowers, or kill giant hornets approach, you can spend upwards of 70 hours in Clive's shoes. At least you always have your best buddy Torgal at your side. That's a good boy. If you beat Final Fantasy XVI yet find yourself craving more, have no fear. Once you've completed the game, Final Fantasy mode is unlocked. This mode offers revamped and more challenging enemy encounters, a higher level cap, and exclusive loot as a reward. You know, if the satisfaction of winning isn't enough for you. Assuming you play this mode to completion, you're easily looking at 160 hours in Final Fantasy XVI. Be sure to pace yourself and stay hydrated. Final Fantasy XVI's price tag is the standard $70 for the base game, with the Digital Deluxe Edition available for $90, and it's currently only available on PlayStation 5. The Digital Deluxe Edition includes a mini art book and soundtrack to peruse at your leisure. You can also purchase a physical deluxe edition with a steelbook and a cloth map, which will cost you around $100. On the more expensive and rarer side, there is a collector's edition that comes with a statue, a pin collection, a goods box, and the aforementioned steelbook and map. This version comes at a whopping $350 if you can find it at its original price. And if you're really unsure whether you want to shell out that money for the game, a free demo is available on the PS5 to try out the first section of the game. So, what are some other people actually saying about the game? Specialist writer Quinton O'Connor says, "Much of the discourse around Final Fantasy XVI has been about what it isn't. Every remaining vestige of turn-based battling, once a staple of the series, has gone up in a puff of smoke. There aren't any minigames like Triple Triad or Blitzball, and you're only ever in direct control of one character. I prefer to consider what Final Fantasy XVI is. It has a memorable cast and a gripping story that deals with most of its themes in a refreshingly mature manner. It has a high-octane and intensely rewarding combat system that is relatively simple at first blush, but remarkably challenging to master. It has a wolf named Torgal, who is just the goodest boy, and it has several of the most jaw-dropping, spectacular set-piece sequences the gaming industry has ever seen. Maybe it's a little rough around the edges, and I wish there was more to explore, but Final Fantasy XVI is fairly fantastic. Lapsed fans and newcomers alike will have a grand time in the magical realm of Valisthea. I know I sure have." Avery Ferrer says, "Since Final Fantasy XVI launched, the hot debate has been if the latest iteration of the storied series was still a Final Fantasy game. Understandably, it's hard to adjust to change. Instead of turn-based style combat, we're encountering enemies in real time and fighting them like Sora from Kingdom Hearts or Dante from Devil May Cry. While there are still plenty of strategies to think about, the fast-paced battle system means more time mashing buttons and less time calculating your next move. But that doesn't mean this isn't a Final Fantasy game. If anything, Final Fantasy XVI embodies every conceivable theme of the famous role-playing series and kicks them into overdrive. Epic boss fights that are scored with the most badass music will leave you salivating at the thought of what's next to come. A cast of characters that will quickly pull at your heartstrings and have you care about not only the main party members, but random NPCs you meet in Valisthea. Final Fantasy XVI is a triumph for Square Enix and utilizes the true power of the PlayStation 5. The massive changes that Square Enix made in Final Fantasy XVI compared to others in the series is a sign of growth, and gamers should be pleased about that. A series as old as Final Fantasy needs to evolve. Whether you're a Final Fantasy diehard or an RPG connoisseur, I implore you not to be scared by the changes in Final Fantasy XVI and to give it a chance. You won't regret it. Overall, Final Fantasy XVI does a lot to stand apart from the rest of the series, taking it in a new direction. Fans of the classic turn-based RPGs might have to adapt to this more action-oriented approach, and the much darker overall theme is a distance from the generally colourful and light-hearted games in the series. Not that the games have never been dark or tackled dark themes, but this game goes above and beyond. Still, it's an excellent experience for both fans and newcomers to Final Fantasy, offering a gripping tale, a beautiful world, and no shortage of things to do. If you're entirely unsure, the demo is an excellent way to get started with the game and feel things out, but if you're intrigued by any aspect of the game, the likelihood is that you're going to have a fantastic time with it.